Hey guys, welcome back to Tuned In Guitar Lessons. Today we are going to look at the most powerful, huge sounding chords out there, power chords. We're going to break this into two sections where this week I'm going to do power chords starting on the low E string, and then next week we're going to look at power chords starting on the A string. And there's reasons why I want to separate them, but let me tell you what, we're going to start with the E string power chords. They sound huge, they're easy to play once you get them down, and they're in tons of songs out there. So let's jump in. So first we have to start with what is a power chord. A power chord is a two-note chord. It uses the intervals of a root and a fifth. If that doesn't make sense, no big deal. But what it means is that it's missing the third of the chord, and the third is the emotional quality note that's within a chord. So it's what makes a chord sound either happy or sad. Now, because a power chord doesn't have the third in the chord, it sounds neutral in a way, which means it could go either way. It could sound happy in some contexts, and it could sound sad in other contexts. Now, because they are neutral chords, this means they can substitute any kind of chord that you're playing. So if you're playing a C major chord, you could play a C power chord instead. If you're playing a C minor chord, you could play a C power chord instead. Because it doesn't have that emotional quality tone in it, it could fit over either type of chord and be a replacement or a substitution. Don't worry if that sounds confusing. Now, you may see power chords written on a chord chart as the letter or the root note followed by the number 5. So if you saw an A5 written on a chord chart, it would mean you'd have to find an A note on your guitar and then play that power chord shape, and you would get an A5 power chord or an A power chord. A5, A power chord, same thing. Lots of terms get interchanged in music and especially on the guitar. So for the sake of this lesson, we're going to just refer to everything as a power chord. I'm not going to say A5, C5, F5. Now, the power chord has a basic shape, and the great thing about power chords is that the shape is movable. So unlike your open chords, I always explain to my students, when you learn open chords, you have to learn a lot of different shapes. You have to learn C, D, G, E minor, A minor, B7, right? You have to learn all those chord shapes. With the power chord, it's a trickier shape to get under your fingers, but it's easier in the sense that it's one shape that's movable all over the place. And that for guitar is like super convenient and helpful for us. And what does the shape look like? So the shape is going to use 3 fingers, all right? It is going to use our index, ring, and pinky. And for right now, we are only going to play power chords that are starting on the E, A, and D strings, okay? So we're just playing on these lower 3 strings. And I'm going to tell you guys to start higher down the fretboard because the frets are a little bit closer. So when you want to start getting the shape down, a lot of students find it easier to be down the fretboard and figure the shape out, and then they can start to work backwards. Now, I'm going to give you guys a couple little exercises in this lesson that is going to be in different spots of the neck, basically. And so anyway, let's get into this. So the root note is going to be our index finger, and that the root note is always the note that gives the chord its name. So if we played an A power chord, our root note would have to go to an A note, which is the 5th fret of the low E string. That's where our index would fall. And then we would have our 5th, which is where the ring finger is going to fall. In this case, the 7th fret is the E note, and that would be our root in our 5th. Again, don't worry too much about the theory, but I'm explaining this just so you have a reference later. And then the pinky is going to go underneath the ring finger onto the D string, same fret. So you have 5, 7, 7. And the notes that you're playing are A, E, A. So you're playing root, 5th, root. Okay, and that is the 3-finger shape. And you would just strum those bottom 3 strings, and you would get that chord sound. So anyway, you will always be playing with index, ring, and pinky. You play power chords with a different technique than you play all your other chords. So let's take a look at just some regular open chords for a second. I'm assuming everybody knows their C, their G, their A minor, right? All these kinds of chords. When you play open chords, you play every one of those chords on your fingertips, okay? So that means that you're pressing down on the fingertips, part of your finger. Now, there's a little alteration that happens with a power chord, and this is what sometimes students make a mistake on when they're learning this, is they play the chord the wrong way. So a lot of students think if I tell them, hey, we're going to press down 8, 10, 10, like say this was our first shape we're going to learn, is 8, 10, 10. What they will do is they will put their fingertip like on 8, and then all their other fingertips, 8, 10, 10 is what we have here. And what happens when you do this is that there's an arch in your index finger. So if you look on this camera over here, there will be an arch there, and that leaves these other strings ringing out. Now when you play a power chord with distortion on, if you got all those strings ringing out, it just sounds nasty. So the correct technique for playing a power chord is that you don't play on the fingertip, you play on the fingerprint. Okay, so you're going to change from playing just with the index finger. Instead of playing the first note with your fingertip, you're going to play with the fingerprint, and that is going to look like this. You see that? So if I put my finger on the 8th fret, fingerprint, my finger now is laying flat down. Now I'm not barring. So I don't want you to think that I'm barring here. I am just laying, I'm only pressing down the first string, the low E string, but I'm using my fingerprint, and my finger is sort of on an angle where these other strings are just muted, okay? And then I can put these other two fingers down. So now I have this form. This is what it looks like from the side. And this is what it looks like from the front. So from the front, sometimes you can't tell that I'm using my fingerprint. A lot of people think I'm doing this. I'm curving my finger. I'm not doing that. It's laying flat like this. So from the side, you can see that. Okay. Now what this does is this allows me to be able to mute these unwanted strings on the high end. So when I hit that distortion, if I play this power chord, you can see I can strum everything, but you only hear those 3 strings. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, muted. So bottom 3 are playing, top 3 are muted. And that allows me to be really kind of sloppy with my strumming in a way, actually. See, I can go like this, the chord still sounds good. If I go to the fingertip, nasty. Right? So this is going to be one of the trickiest things for you to get down at first, is to get used to playing on your fingerprint instead of your fingertip. But this is the most important thing about the power chord when you start playing it. If you don't make this change, your power chords are gonna sound too sloppy, so you gotta do this. So I'm gonna give you guys a little exercise here. This is what we're gonna do. All right, so I want to give you guys some things that you can practice to start getting this technique down. I don't want you to worry about memorizing all the names of the notes that you're playing. If you want to work on doing that, then watch my how to memorize the notes on the fretboard video that I put out a few weeks ago. It uses power chords. It gives you an exercise you can practice to start memorizing the natural names. I'll put a link in the description. Watch that video, practice that. Today, we're just going to practice getting the shape down and making them sound clean. So what I want to do is I'm going to give you guys this exercise that we are basically going to just start on the 8th fret doing a power chord. So it's going to be 8, 10, 10. And what I want to tell you guys to do is sound wise, don't use a clean guitar. Use a little bit of distortion. Don't use super heavy distortion, okay? Use something that's like medium kind of sound. So if all you have is a very deep, heavy distortion like that, just dial off your volume knob a little bit and it'll clean it up a little bit, right? And we want to get this tone that's just kind of crunchy a little bit. And what we're going to do is you can use 2 rhythms for this. You can either do this one that I'm going to play. I'll play both rhythms for you. So you can either go like this, which is just down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, right? So it's just 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. And all we're going to do is we're going to start this exercise. It is going to have the finger engaged on the 8th fret, and then we are going to play 8. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, And then we're going to lift off and we're going to play another 8, but we're only going to try to strum those 3 low strings, right? So it's going to look like this. I'll go slow. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2. So you see how I'm releasing? Press, release. Right, so that rhythm's pretty simple. You could use this other rhythm that's sort of remnant of Use Somebody by Kings of Leon, right? It sounds like this. It would go... Now, the reason that we're doing this is not to sound great necessarily. It's just to get our finger used to doing this press, release, because I find a lot of students when they start playing power chords, your hand is going to get tired. This gives your index finger a chance to kind of relax, go back down, relax, go back down. And you could technically do this exercise really anywhere. So if you wanted to practice down low and get those chords down here, you could go down to the F or the 1st fret and just do the same kind of exercise. Fingerprint. And it's not going to sound like the most amazing chords, right? But like, because you're opening that string up, but it's a good exercise to start getting the shape down. Now we're going to move to another exercise. So that was exercise 1. Exercise 2, we're going to use a common chord progression. We're going to use the same strum, but now we're going to try to move and we're going to keep everything on the low E string. So we're not shifting anywhere. So all our chords are going to be on the low E string and we're going to sound like this. Okay, and this is basically just a little chord progression. It's going C, G, A, F, if you want to know. All power chords, right? So we could say C5, G5, A5, F5, and that is the chord progression, okay? But basically, all we're doing is keeping that rhythm, and you could do the other rhythm if you want to. So you'd go... Okay, and this little exercise is really fun because 1, it sounds like music, and 2, you're learning this power chord shape, and it's something that can be very tricky at first, and it's not making you jump across strings. We haven't done that yet. That's next week's video. But this week, we want to just get down this first shape, and we want to work on this. It might take you, weeks to get this down. You're not going to get this down overnight. This is something you have to really work at, okay? So anyway, that was exercise 2. Let's do exercise 3 now. And this, we're just going to use, this is honestly the chorus section from Come As You Are by Nirvana. So if you know the little intro riff, if you can already play the... Right, if you can already play that riff, this is the chorus section to that. We're basically just going to play a power chord on the 2nd fret. So it's going to be 2, 4, 4. And we are going to slide to the 5th fret, and it's going to be 5, 7, 7. Okay, so that's going to be our 2 power chords. Rhythm-wise, though, we are going to combine the California Sunrise. If you don't know what that is, check out my strumming video. I'll link that below also. But that is just simply what I think is the most popular strum pattern out there. Down, down, up, down, up. Okay, so on the 1st power chord, we're going to go. And then we're going to slide to the 5th fret, and we're just going to do down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up. So that all together would look like this. And we just repeat that. And these are 3 little exercises that you can work on. They sound super great and they're fun to start getting it down, and they're not impossible to do. And that is one of the reasons that I'm giving you exercises like this instead of giving you some famous song that has some crazy power chord riff, because they're out there, right? And essentially what you want to do is just kind of get used to playing it and then try to tackle the harder riffs, the whole songs, that kind of thing. So anyway, let's just go over this again. So exercise 1 is just going to be or like this. And then exercise 2 is going to be this one. And then exercise 3, the chorus from Come As You Are. And notice on each of those exercises how my finger is laying. I'm playing on the fingerprint and it's muting these strings. If you can get that muting thing down, it's gonna sound amazing when you do this. And that is, by the way, like little side note, that is the biggest mistake I see students make, is they don't get that muting correct and their power chords just sound really sloppy. But work on it and it'll clean up. All right, guys, that's it. So power chords are literally a gateway to playing thousands of songs. Most songs are going to mix open chords and power chords together. If you got some value out of this video, please like and subscribe. Please do me a favor. Check out my guitar flashcards on Amazon. I'll put a link in the description. Also, check out my theory course at tunedinguitarcourses.com. Thank you guys so much. Let me know what you guys want to learn. If you guys want to learn riffs, songs, more music theory, please comment below. Tell me so that I can make more videos that are designed towards you guys that are actually watching the channel. Thank you and God bless.